Hey folks, here is my Warzone settings. I've been playing a lot of Warzone recently, considering it's my job now. And I have changed both the controls and the VFX. And I've also remapped the controller itself because the control customization is just not quite where I think it needs to be inside the game itself. So here is a short video summarizing all those changes. The first, here we have, over here is the options menu. And so immediately in general, I'm going to be bumping up that FOV and increasing the brightness. And this is sort of a personal preference, but I choose to skip the intro movie, which is basically them just like hanging out on a plane together. Following that, in the general map settings, I choose the map to be square. This is just one of those, it's not even personal preference at this point. They've shown that it's like 25% more of the map is being shown if you elect square, so it's a real no-brainer. You should definitely be choosing square. The other things are in graphics. I set depth of field to disabled, filmic strength to 0. Again, this is all just stuff that's supposed to make the game look pretty, make it look really nice and cinematic, but you don't want any of that. You just want to be able to simplify the game really as much as possible so it becomes Rainbow Six Siege, and you're just saying, is there a head in my reticle? Shoot it. So you're going to want to disable that or set it to 0. Similar thing going on with weapon motion blur and film grain. You're just going to want to turn those features off so that you could just see the person and not have any of these fancy effects in the way. When it comes to controller layout, I set a base controller layout of bumper ping tactical. This is great because it has the ping system on the bumpers, which is better than nothing, but it does fall short where in order to jump and to punch and all that, in order to jump, which is really one of the biggest things, you need to push A, and in order to sprint, you need to hold down the left mouse button, or the left mouse stick, the left thumbstick. But both of those are really not great. So we're going to talk about how to remap that in just a second. While we're still here, though, we're going to change the dead zone. Ideally, you want the dead zone to be as low as possible. This is a pretty old controller, so the dead zone's pretty high. But if you could get that down to 0.2, it's going to be way better. So you just want to decrease that to the degree you can. Here's your sensitivity settings. Again, that is going to be personal preference. I'll show you in game how you can sort of test that and calibrate that to your desire. Right now, I think I'm running 5, but usually 5 or 6, that area is a good fit for me. You can't spin around fast. You know it's a trade-off, but in most cases, you're going to be shooting at what is in front of you if you're facing the right direction. So hopefully we can rely on that. The ADS sensitivity multiplier, this is again something you're going to want to finely tune, but for me it's going to be 0.85. And then the aim response curve type, that's going to be linear. Okay, jumping forward, we have on the controller, you're going to want to scale aim assist with FOV, definitely. The armor plate behavior, that is a preference. I choose to apply all, which basically means as soon as you say, hey, I'm plating up, I'm going to plate all the way. It's very rare that I'm in a situation where I only want to put in one plate, so I prefer to just not have to press the button again. Slide behavior definitely should be tap. And the automatic sprint, that is a choice. You could choose automatic tactical sprint. I prefer to have sprint mapped to a button. Now, if it's going to be mapped to a depressed left thumbstick, that's going to suck. It's really not a great place for that button map to be. However, I found that it works really well in the left bumper. And so it does feel a little bit weird to get into in the beginning, but it's super easy to be sprinting there. And it also makes a lot of ergonomic sense because you're not going to be, the left trigger, which would be the competing point of purchase for your left index finger, the left triggers zoom in. And so you're never going to zoom in while you're running. In fact, you can't in this game. And so it makes a lot of sense for your left bumper in that case to be the sprint feature. That way, again, it doesn't make sense for you to do a depressed thumbstick on that. So that works out well for me. The next thing is a controller remap. So in order to remap your controller, you're going to need to have something called Xbox Accessories. So you're just going to need to go to the Windows App Store and download Xbox Accessories, at which point you'll be able to reconfigure the controller. This is not a great app. I think it's got something like 2.4 stars out of 5 on the Windows Store. But if you do it all at once, then it actually works out a lot better. So you sort of have to push in the left thumbstick and then push the right thumbstick to show that you want to switch the right thumbstick on top of the left thumbstick. And you kind of have to mess around with it a little bit. It's going to take a moment, but it's totally worth it for me. The downside to remapping the controller is, of course, when you're in the menus, those controllers are going to retain the remapping. And so I do have the default controller as a layout that I could always switch back to. But honestly, at this point, I've just gotten used to when I'm scrolling through the menus, I'm pushing in the right thumbstick to act as my surrogate A button. And, it's kind of annoying, but that's what we have to deal with. The last thing is the GeForce Experience settings. These are 3 different settings for separate filters, which are color, brightness, and sharpen, which make a huge difference on gameplay. So let's take a moment, just jump into gameplay right now. And in order to reset these features, you're going to need to have the GeForce Experience installed, which you could download online. But once you have it installed, you could press Alt-Z and then select Game Filters. And so this can make a huge improvement or change, it's all preference really, on how the game looks versus the vanilla, the default layout. So by default, the game looks like this, okay? Completely different color scheme. The color's really muted, and I prefer to have a filter that looks a lot more like this, which is much more vibrant. Not only is it much nicer to look at, it looks a little bit less like we're in a, like a nuclear fallout, but it's also nice because you can increase visibility of a lot of the important things you're going to want to put your eyes on, which is mostly heads to shoot. And so I have 3 filters which I've set there. And again, if you want to pause it, all those settings are going to be right here in my drop down here. And so I tune that every now and then. Again, it is preference, but that's how I like to do it. And then I would say once you remap your controllers, this is the tutorial right here is actually a really good place for you to kind of just practice. And so what I like to do is I just like to run around this room right here, and I like to sort of gauge how fast I could put my reticule on some of those bad guys over there. And it's actually very akin to firing firearms in real life, wherein, if you buy a gun, if you want to practice your aim, it's actually very valuable for you to dry fire and for you to practice without any bullets in the chamber, obviously, in your garage, and just sort of aim down sights, and then, go back to a high ready, and then aim down sights, and just sort of see how fast you can get the head on the reticule there. And what I like to do is also just practicing my movement. I like to run around here, slide down here, and then try to shoot that guy. And again, you don't even need to press the trigger. It's just trying to put your reticule on him as fast as possible. Jump over this, come right here, bomb. I actually wanted to slide there. So there's also something really annoying, I think, about this controller layout. And it's something, it's pretty common in the games industry, which is that your crouch button is the same as slide. And I can understand why, like narratively, okay, he's crouching down, and that's sort of similar to sliding. But it really is not, it really doesn't make a lot of sense ergonomically, because never would you want to crouch at the same time that you want it to slide. Like, they're completely different things. And so I think it should probably be mapped to something like, okay, if my velocity is anything but nothing, I should slide versus crouch. Because sometimes you'll get into these areas where, like, where you saw I jumped over this thing and I wanted to slide right there. But if you're airbound and you jump over this and then you try to slide, you immediately go into a crouch. Even if it's the same exact duration of the button press as I'm doing right now. When I jump over the barrier and then I try to slide immediately, I can get stuck in a crouch. Yeah, it just happened again. Which is really frustrating. But there's no way, unfortunately, with the way the controller is mapped right now to divorce those two things. So you're kind of stuck between the two. But those are my control settings. I'm really happy with them. I feel like we've come a long way. I was moving a lot with the ping system. I really wanted to do left bumper ping. But I think right now I'm at a happy medium where I'm doing up on the D-pad for ping. And it allows me to keep ADS, where basically I mean, it's probably obvious, but I'm taking my left thumb and I'm pushing it down for a second to ping. So I'm zooming in, and then I go ping. Ping. Or sorry, yeah, like that. Ping. So, I come here, I zoom in, and then just for a second I go ping. So that's sort of what it looks like now, and that's sort of my vibe. But I would love to see if you guys think there's a better layout scheme for this. Again, I'm using the default controller. Things are going to change a lot if you have Scuff, which is the $150 controller where you get the back pedals. In that case, it makes sense to probably map those to jump and stuff. But you're still going to face these problems, which are just sort of, you know, poisoned into the setup, where it's like crouch is going to be the same as whatever this is called. I forgot. Slide. So you're just gonna you're gonna be facing that. All right, so that's it. Let me know what you think.